Nicholas says serving others should always make you feel miserable. Just kidding. Well, right. Well, I think that's the big fear, right? That if I do this, I'm going to go without. If I do this, I'm not going to have stuff for myself. You know what? That's a great line. We're going to jump into one of the talks today. So, I received a message. A comment. I received a comment that I thought was really interesting. Now, I'm going to share the comment with you. It says, I agree that Christians will be persecuted sometime and that they should be prepared. However, inviting a Marxist communist into the high offices, most Democrats and rhinos, is like having the fox guard the chicken house. It's as bad as the open border that brought 15 million illegal immigrants. Are you ready for that amount in Canada? I think you need to keep your politics there. You don't know enough about American history or your theology. Okay, I can't really answer to that. I don't know enough about American history. Honestly, I want to know more, but I would argue that very few of us know enough. We should always know more. As far as keeping my thoughts here in Canada, I will do that the day that when the United States makes a decision, it doesn't impact every other human being on the planet within days. The truth is, nothing in the United States happens in a vacuum. Whatever goes on there, good stuff floats out. Whatever bad stuff happens there, it impacts us all. Whereas I know you might like people outside of your country to stop talking about what's going on in your country. Whatever goes on in your country ends up in our countries. That's the reality that people outside of your country, for the most part, understand. But I want to, the thing about this comment that got me was, so I had done a video about Jim Baker and Paula White trying to convince Christians that they should be afraid of the persecution they're going to feel at the hands of a Harris-Walz White House. Right? Christians are going to be persecuted like you've never experienced before. We're going to experience persecution like you've never experienced before. And so the guy's saying, yeah, I agree. And in the video I said that's one of the things that we should be ready for because it happens. We're told this will happen. But then he goes on to talk about this Marxist stuff and these 15 million illegal immigrants and so on and so forth. One of the reasons that we do as Christians get so afraid is because we are wildly invested in the things around us. Right? We are wildly invested in the things around us. We want them to be this way always. We want them to be just so forever. Again, in this statement, obviously, in this case, based on the metaphor, it's the 15 million illegal immigrants are your foxes. And the chickens are us. The chickens are the economy. The chickens are the jobs. The chickens are the housing. The chickens are the things that we've grown attached to that we don't want to share with anybody else. The things that we've grown attached to that we're really, really scared somebody's going to come and take from us. Well, again, for a Christian, we're not supposed to be scared. We're not supposed to be afraid, right? Fear not, the Lord is with you. That kind of stuff. Like if we really, really give ourselves into that, if we really put our trust in that, in living a life like that, then what it requires us to do is to begin detaching from the things of this world that are temporal. We're called to let go of the earthly rewards. We're called to let go of our earthly comforts that we've grown attached to, that we've grown so used to, that we've grown accustomed to, that we've grown to need. Those things that we've grown to believe are somehow our right, somehow something that is godly given. Right? We have to be willing to share. We have to be willing to let go. We have to be willing to give. We have to be willing to accept and embrace change, knowing full well that everything about the Christian is spiritual in nature. Our kingdom is not of this world. Jesus said, my kingdom's not of this world. If it was, I'd call down an army, but it's not. Now, I follow him. I'm told that I'm an heir through hope of the kingdom, of everlasting peace. Therefore, my kingdom is not of this world. My kingdom is not of this world. My kingdom is of another world. So if my kingdom is of another world, my kingdom, the place where I sit, the place where I rule, the place that is waiting for me to arrive, if that's the case, well, I'm going to spend my life building up those rewards there. And I do that, again, I do that by making this world a better place. I do that by sharing. And in fairness, to share more, I need to be willing to let go of more here. If I'm not willing to let go, then I can't possibly help out my neighbor with it. If I'm not willing to let go of it, if I'm not willing to stop hoarding stuff up for myself, if I'm too worried about not having something for myself tomorrow, if I'm too worried about not having something for myself in 10 years, if I'm too worried about not being able to buy that thing that I want to buy, then I am limited in how I will share. I'm limited in how I will give. I'm limited in how courageous I will be. I'm guaranteeing that there will be an element of fear in my life. Last night we were talking sort of in between acts, and a gentleman got on stage and he was introducing the next act, and he offered a land acknowledgement. And he offered a lovely land acknowledgement, and I apologize, I can't pronounce the name of the nation that was here in Fredericton, but he said, we are on the land of these people. We're incredibly grateful to be here. We are on the lands of these people. And then he said, but an acknowledgement isn't enough. And we got to go further. We got to go further. And that made me question myself. How far would I be willing to go? How far would I be willing to go to make amends, to bring about reconciliation? I'm willing to make a land acknowledgement, absolutely. I'm willing to learn the few words that I can learn in the Mi'kmaq language, sure. I'm willing to wear the orange T-shirt. I'm willing to be an ally. Absolutely. Am I willing to give back my land? Am I willing to pay a percentage of the profits that I make on my business? Am I willing to send some of that profit because I'm using that land? Am I willing to send that to the indigenous peoples of my region? Like, how far am I willing to go in it? Well, that's going to be limited by my attachment to those things. My courage, my generosity, my charity is going to be limited by how attached I am to the things that I'm being asked to give. The more attached we are, the less likely we are to give, because the more likely we are to fear not having enough for ourselves. We're afraid of immigrants. Why? Because they might take from us. I might not have access to all the things that I had access to. I might have to share. I might have to share my neighborhood. I may have to, share the space on the bus that I'm used to. I may have to share resources, at government offices. I may have to share resources at hospitals. The waiting lines might be a little bit longer. Maybe there'll be fewer places for me to live because we're not ready for a huge influx of people. And maybe it's going to require that I, have to pay a little bit more at the fast food restaurant, or maybe it's going to require that. At the end of the day, when I'm afraid of something, my sense is that usually it's because I'm afraid it'll take something from me. And I will bump into that when that thing it's going to take from me is something that I treasure, something that I value. And not for nothing, but for the Christian, one of the practices we're supposed to continue to work on is letting go. So that there are fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer things in this world that I'm willing, that there are fewer things that I feel the need to keep for myself, that there are more and more and more things that I'm willing to share. Amen.